just wanted to say hey to everybody that's coming on board, and there's more folks that are coming as we speak. Got some good stuff here for you today, I hope, anyway. So I'm just going to kick right into it. First of all, Happy New Year. It is now 2013 for the federal budget year, and that means good things for folks that were involved in 2012. And I did a survey. I don't know if it actually worked. I'm trying to figure out how to access that survey. Maybe I'll turn that in later. But I'm going to ask the question out there, and everybody, if you could take a look at your chats down on the right-hand side, the question is, when was your last contract for 2012? What day and what time? And whoever wins, I'll send a book out to. But that's the question. We did this at the symposium the other day, and the last one that was actually awarded and notified, it happened on Sunday, late on Sunday. In fact, it was almost midnight. So that was a pretty crazy thing. They didn't even know about the award until Monday. That's how late it came in on Sunday. So very cool. So if you have any, if you can go down to the right-hand side to the chat side of your thing and just let me know what day and time your last federal contract was, it'd be great, and we'll let everybody know who the winner is in just a minute. So anyway, Happy New Year 2013. If you have any questions real quick or for us, make sure that you have your audio pin plugged in. It looks like most people have their audio pin plugged in, which is great. Allison, I don't see yours there. It could be that you're just watching or just listening. But there you go. Looks like you got it in now. All right, there's a hand raised already from Allison. Hang on a second, Allison. Let's see what your question is real quick. Hang on a second. I'm going to unmute you. Allison, you there?
Yes.
Okay. Everything working all right, or do you have a question for me?
No, I'm good.
Okay, good. You can raise your hand, and you can absolutely type a question in the bottom side for your okay, Josh. Yeah, it's not letting you in as a panelist. That's my fault. We'll see if we can get you in next time as a panelist. But if you chat me when you had your last contract for 2012, and I know there was a survey in there somewhere, and I'll see if I can pull that out. So again, just housekeeping. If you have any questions, raise your hand or you can chat them. About us and ISI Federal, here's some of our clients. Dynamic Computer Corporation in Michigan, one of our premier clients. Here's some of our other folks. You'll notice some of the small guys like Northrop Grumman and Coastal Sun Belt. They happen to be rather large. And then we work with small and medium-sized companies to get them in the federal space. We bridge the gap for small businesses so they can compete for federal opportunities. That's what we do every day. We have three primary clients that we serve. One is to understand the market. Second is to plan, strategize, and prepare for the market. And the third is to apply resources. This is one of the most critical components that you're going to run into, and we're going to talk about that a little bit today. Some of those applying those resources and helping you, we may help you research and direct your team in order to be able to be better and have more success in the federal space. We can assist and manage that, actually coach them through the process. We can also do some of the grunt work for you for making the phone calls, scheduling the meetings, getting you in front of the right people. And we also provide feet on the street in Washington, D.C. And these are the critical components for you for being able to have an effective federal strategy and actually win in the federal market. Special congratulations goes to Link Services. There's one of our clients that just reached number 300 in the Inc. 500. Very, very cool. They do cell phone management for large accounts. So if you have a fleet of vehicles or a fleet of people out there with cell phones, these are the folks that you can turn to. Usually they work with cell phone accounts that are larger than 50 to help manage that, and then you don't have to call the carrier anymore. And they have built a business on customer service, or the lack of customer service, for for the cell phone industry, and they're very, very good at it. So we're really congratulating Link Services. We played a role in their life and growth for the past 5 years. So we really appreciate being involved with them. Another special thanks goes out to Andy Powell from Haltz, Boozes, and Powell. We had 35 attendees. We had a great game for the federal symposium, and it was a great networking event. And we'll keep everybody posted on that for next time. It looks like we're going to be doing that again, and they're going to invite me again. I must have done something right there. So it was a really good time. One of the special guests that I have here today is Jamie Zell. He's the Director of Sales and Marketing for GSAproposal.com. One of the most important things that you can do, at least depending on what you're doing, and many times, is to have a GSA schedule. So Jamie, say hello.
Hey, Dave. How are you doing today?
I'm good, man. I always love that picture, man. I always got a crack on you for that one. love the skinny tie, too. It's almost retro now, man. It's all coming back.
You know, you hang on to them long enough, they come back around, and they always work, right?
That's right. That's right. So, Jamie, give them a dose of what you do.
Okay. Well, our first and main mission is helping other companies get their GSA schedule, otherwise known as a GSA contract, and to use that as a tool to go out and win business with the federal government. In many cases, a GSA schedule is required in order for a purchasing officer to make their purchases. And in other cases where it's not required, it's a way to show that you are, well, when you have your GSA schedule, it proves that your company has good past performance, that you're a stable company, that even your pricing has been certified and approved as part of the GSA schedule process. And we take the clients through a process where we build your master set of documentation, get it off to GSA, work it through their system, get it approved, and it becomes then your awarded GSA contract, which you then carry forward with you and use that as a tool to win business with the federal government. And one thing that we always recommend with regards to clients, when you get your GSA schedule, put it on your website, put it on your business cards, put it on your literature, and use it as a badge of honor to let anyone know that you have your GSA contract, which proves that you're safe to do business with and are a quality supplier of products and services.
Yeah, because GSA vets you rather ruthlessly in some instances to be able to get there. And Mary, hold on one second. I'm going to see if I can pop Mary up here because she has a question. Mary, are you there? Her question is, hopefully she unmutes herself or whatever it is. She may be on the line or other line or something. But her question is, what size organization in terms of personnel normally has GSA schedules? Is there a minimum company size that is needed for a GSA schedule to make sense? And since you're here, I'm going to let you handle that right now before we even go any further.
Okay, well, the answer to that is there is not any minimum requirement. In fact, over the years, and we've actually been doing this now 10 years in business, even one-person organizations have come to us and they want to get their GSA contract because they're trying to go win business with the federal government. And rather than take that task on their own, they go to a specialist, which is the same reason why I use a tax guy every year to make my job easier in the world of taxes. And we carry them through that process. And again, you know, many examples of this. Some of the most common themes are maybe a one-person organization doing HVAC. They're doing heating and air conditioning repair, and they want to go service a local facility that's a federal agency, and that agency is looking for suppliers with GSA schedules. Even as a one-person organization, we get them on schedule. They go out and then begin working with that federal client, and it becomes a brand new cycle of business for them and revenue that they didn't have before.
Exactly, and sometimes it's amazing what happens when you get a schedule is that because it doesn't get you business, that's the first thing, but it lines you up to be able to get business, and it's kind of a ticket to the dance kind of thing. And the only requirements that I know of that would be critical for you, Mary, is that you have to be in business for at least a year if you're selling product and 2 years if you're doing services. But that's pretty much the only requirement for you there. So I appreciate that, Jamie. Thank you very much. I think that helps with answering that question.
Sure.
Hopefully. Just give you an overview of what you should expect from this particular webinar. We're going to fire hose you today with information. We don't follow the pack. If you haven't read Purple Cow as part of your marketing expedition, that's what the reference is here. Third, we're going to give you give you access to some business accelerators so that you can get ahead of the marketplace, especially ahead of the RFP process. And we're going to give you help where you need it, and I'm going to preface this to say not necessarily where you think you need it, because we're going to lay things out, and sometimes it's counterintuitive. There's a lot in the government that's very counterintuitive. So we're going to let you know some of the things that are happening out there so that you can determine whether this is the right market for you, what the best path is, and to give you some realistic expectations of what you're doing. We're also going to provide you with shameless plugs. And those shameless plugs will be for me at ISI Federal and in my company. It may be for GSA Proposal. It may be for some of our partners that we work with, because these folks spend time all the time in the federal business, and we want to make sure that you know about them as resources for you. So for today's webinar, we're going to be concentrating, since it's the beginning of a new year. I know everybody's thinking, I got an email back from somebody. I can't remember who it was off the top of my head, but the question was, because I sent out Happy New Year to everybody, and I got one back. Did you send this out too early? But the fact of the matter is the fiscal year end for the federal government is in September. It's September 30th. So this is a great time to get to start looking for the future as what it is that you're going to be doing in the federal marketplace. Should you get in the market? If no, you can thank me, because I probably just saved you about $50,000 if you decide not to get into the market today because you're not quite ready. If it's yes, then we're going to show you some ways to be able to do that and be able to participate and set your expectations straight. It can be with your do-it-yourself with the right plan. We can help you manage or do the grunt work, and we can also provide you with the right resources to completely outsource your business development, and we'll talk about a little bit of that later. Now, if you're already in this market, and many of you folks are, should you stay in this market? Because there's a lot of uncertainty out there, and you're going to have to manage your expectations, dealing with some of the changes that are happening. If you are a federal contractor, you are at risk. Why? Because there are people that are changing. There are things that are changing. There are initiatives that are changing where they are shifting funds. They're pulling funds to go and put someplace else. When you have a contact there, if you are the incumbent, you have the most to lose, right? Because you have what everybody else is trying to get to. So being able to what I'd say, some people are trying to maintain in this market, and my thing is, you don't want to maintain. There's no way to stay status quo in this market. You're either going up or you're going down, and if you are an incumbent, your business is at risk. So being able to build, use a good to great term, being able to use your hedgehog effect and building moats around what you're doing and pushing those competitors away. You do have very good advantages for being in there, but there are changes that are happening. Plus, you do want to go out and you want to find new opportunities that are outside where your regular focus is. Otherwise, if you're trying to maintain, you're going to wind up losing. You're going to lose you're going to lose some of those contracts that you have right now because of the change in the flux that's happening in the federal space. So I'm not trying to scare you to death. I'm trying to be realistic about what you're doing. So when we talk about expanding in this market, what does that mean for you? If you're new to the market, what does it mean? If you're already in the market, what kind of expansion can you get to? What are some realistic expectations? And we'll be talking about developing a strategy for 2013, a successful strategy for you, where you can find new contacts, you can find new opportunities, and we're going to get you ways to get ahead of the RFP. If you're waiting for Fed Biz Ops, or you're waiting for Fed Bid, or you're waiting for Fed Connect, whatever the things that you're looking at, even input and the rest of them, if you're waiting for that to happen, you are absolutely not getting ahead of the process. Don't be reactionary. You have to be proactive about your process and getting in front of the right people at the right time. So the other thing that we want you to know is that ISI Federal is the right partner for you to help in this effort. We can help you get to where you want to go. So why are you here? Now, it's semi-rhetorical because everybody's here because they want to do business with the federal government. I did a survey, and I wanted to look at the survey, but I have no idea how to access it, so I'm going to go with what happened at the symposium the other day and what we talked about. First of all, we're all here because there's an enormous federal market. It is absolutely incredible. There's $425 billion worth of spending that happens every given year, 2.5 million contracts. And I want you to think about this next time you visit FedBizOps and take a look, because there's usually about 60 to 75,000 contracts that are issued, or opportunities, I should say, that are issued on FedBizOps. Not all of those are even going to turn into contracts, because some of those are just sources sought, and some of those are other notifications. So if you figure there's 75,000 that hit there, what about the other 2.425 million of them? Though that's where we're going to be talking about and how to find some of those. 23% of these are set aside for small businesses. Most of you folks are small businesses. Now they buy everything, and we'll talk about that in a moment. It's local. You could do it in your own backyard, or you can expand nationally or even internationally using your GSA vehicle and your other contract vehicles that you can get with the federal government. There's 85,000 plus buyers that have the purchasing authority to buy from you on any given day, and they are the #1 customer in the world. So that's why we're here. So what about your market? Do you sell batteries? Let's take a look at a couple of different niche markets. 902 million. How about translation and interpretation services? $1.4 billion. Site engineering and construction, $1 billion. Produce, $1.1 billion. Just grapes and apples and stuff. Man, it's unbelievable what happens out there. Logistics and shipping, $3.8 billion, and that is beyond what they're spending with the post office, which is their primary source. How about pencils? How about that? Now, almost $1 million just carved out for pencils. Is there more in there that's buried in office supplies? You bet. But I'm just talking about pencils alone. And then we have hairspray for $71,000. So does the government buy what you sell? The answer is a resounding yes. The question is how, and that's why we're here today, to figure out how we can get to some of that money for you. So there's a couple things that we're going to talk about here. There are rules of your federal market expansion. So whether this is irrespective of whether or not you're already in the industry or whether you're getting into this for the first time in the federal space, the federal government does buy everything. I haven't seen anything that they don't buy. They also buy from people they like. Hey, this is a new concept, right? Everybody's thinking it's all price-driven. Everything gets driven to the ground in price. No. People buy from people they like, even in the federal space. Now, let me tell you this. If you're going into some place, you're saying, hey, I want to do business with you because you work for me, and you're my favorite person. Oh, man, you don't want to be this guy. This guy is not the way that you want to approach the marketplace, so we're going to get rid of him. We're going to make sure that you're thinking properly. You don't walk into a place, and if you walk up in a club and you see a good-looking girl or a good-looking guy, and you say, hey, let's get married. That's not how it works. You need to get to know somebody, and they need to get to like you first before they're going to start doing business with you, and we can help you with that process. There is a silver bullet in this whole expedition, so that you know. It is you have to work hard for a long time to get to know the people so they give you a shot. That's your silver bullet. Doesn't sound any different than the rest of the world, right? So, and I'll tell you this. If it were fast, easy, and cheap, everybody could do it. The fact of the matter is, it's going to take work. It's going to cost you money. It's going to cost you resources, and it's going to take time for you to be able to get there. Even if you're in the federal space, if you're looking to expand outside of your existing footprint, your existing relationships, it's going to take time, and it's not fast, easy, or cheap. So I'm setting the expectation, again, you're going to need to work hard for a long time to get to know the people so they will give you a shot. So that's where we are right now. If everybody's cool with that, we're going to proceed. If not, go ahead and jump off and stay in your world. Thank me. Send me a thank you card and say, thank you. You just saved me $50,000, because I'm telling you, there's a lot involved here. Again, we get to how do we get there? And really, when we talk about the how, we really are talking about getting smart about your market. And the how starts with the who. And it's not the who, as in out there in the rock and roll world, one of my favorite bands. So the foundation of sales, though, is doing the right things the right way with the right people at the right time. This is not rocket surgery. as they said in one of the commercials. What we're talking about is finding the right people. So we're talking about the who. Who is involved with this? And who's involved with the purchasing for what you do? What do they do? How do they make decisions? And what do they need from you in order to be able to make those decisions? So that's what we're going to be concentrating on today. There are three primary players in small business procurement. Sometimes it's only two. One of these roles can be covered. As you get larger in procurement, when you get to the tens of millions and hundreds of millions, it gets a little bit more complex, and there's a lot more players that are involved and a lot more political strings that get pulled when those dollars start to grow. So what we're talking about here is generally when you're growing in a new market, we're looking at $750,000 or less. Every once in a while it pops up in the couple of million or so. But what we're talking about are some of these get you going in a new place markets. And we call these decision clusters. And these decision clusters are made up of three people. You have the program manager, your project manager. You have the technical representative, and they're named different things, COTARs, CORs, whatever they happen to be. There's more acronyms in the federal space than you could possibly imagine. And then you have your contracting officer. And these folks get together around a particular project. And let's just say it's a project that fits your company's capabilities, right? Now, each one of these folks have different roles, different needs, and more importantly, they have different buying motives. This is critical for you to know as you're presenting, as you're reaching out, as you're making your introductions, as you're getting to know and building relationships with these people. Some of these people don't even care what you do. They don't care how good you are. And we'll talk about that in just a minute. The project manager and the program manager, now they care about what you do because it is involved with them helping them to reach a particular initiative or a particular project that they're working on that they have to be able to fulfill. Now, if we take a look at some of these things that are important right now, green is good. Cloud computing, security, is still hot ever since 9/11. So those are some areas where you can play. If you can couch what you're doing in a green initiative, or if you do cloud computing, or you do security for cloud computing, or do some of those things, these are the things that are hot right now. And there's absolutely some new and innovative and great new opportunities out there. The other is cost cutting and cost savings. This is a double-edged sword in the federal space because guess what? If they save money on something, then they're losing budget power. The way power works in Washington, D.C. is revolves around budget. And if they lose some of that budget, they're actually cutting their nose off to spite their face. So they're not over excited about losing dollars in a particular budget unless they can take those dollars, or at least a significant portion of those dollars, and apply it someplace else. So, and then absolutely right now, especially with the climate right now, with the political election series coming up, we do have chains being pulled right now in political initiatives as well. They're responsible for finding new ideas and looking at new technologies and new ways of doing things. Believe it or not, they absolutely are. So in fact, we were at the symposium the other day. Some folks from, Jiminy Christmas, I'm going to forget the name. It'll come to me. But they have a pothole filling machine. So they can drive up, fill a pothole with clean it out, fill a pothole with asphalt in 90 seconds, and then move on. Very innovative. And we're looking forward to working with them as well to develop the space. But that's the type of new technology that people are looking for. Sometimes it's hard to crack that nut to get in and find the right people, and we can help you do that. These folks are influenceable from the scope and the requirements standpoint, and this is where you get your traction. Where do you think they get their requirements from? Where do you think they get their scope from and the scope of work for a particular project? It comes from people like you and me. We give them the information so that they can turn that into a scope of work. And sometimes, if we're doing our job right, we can get ahead of it, send them a sample scope of work, and they'll use our scope of work verbatim in the marketplace. So it's awesome to see that happen. We love when that happens, obviously. And if you can't answer your own scope of work in your proposal generation, then you really need to pack up and do something else. But that's really the objective. Your capabilities can help to form and influence their decision-making process for what they're looking for. Their job is to get it done right. And they tie it in with particular initiatives. If they're really good politically, they'll work the internal workings of their agency to be able to get the funding. And your job, quite frankly, is to help them look good. That's it. It's not complicated. Help them look good for their boss, for maybe a new promotion, and that kind of thing. They're not going to get fired for making a bad decision. Almost, it takes an act of Congress to get fired. But what it is, if you can help them look good, it's a key buying motive for anybody. So here's your next person, the technical representative. They're busy, or at least they think they are. They're usually reporting to the PM in the structure, so you have some flow through to the PM. They bridge the gap between the project manager and the contracting officer, and we'll talk about what that gap is in just a second, and why there's a gap. They are risk averse. They don't like trying new things, so don't go hitting them with all kind of new stuff. Usually, every once in a while you find one that is willing to accept those things. But their job is to take the information that's coming in and the information that they need to make a proposal so that they can put it out for competition. Their job is to bridge the gap to say, okay, this makes sense to put in there, and includes government standards as well as similar purchases from maybe even from other agencies where they'll pull stuff in. They'll be looking for certifications. This is a key place for you to play, is to be able to pump them with the certifications that are necessary, making sure that you're pushing your competitors aside. And that's all part of the mandatory requirements. They help to put those things together. So if you can help them put these things together, it'll help you minimize your competition, obviously. So they help with the requirements, and again, their key buying motive, help them look good. And now we're going to talk about the contracting officers. They're busy, or at least think they are. They were certainly busy the last month, and they were just slammed with stuff that happened in the last week and all the way through Sunday. And in fact, I don't know of anybody, but I know some folks that last year, the year before last, were buying on Pacific time, just Pacific time, but Hawaii time. So not only did it go to 11:59 on East Coast, it went 11:59 in Hawaii time, which is 5 hours. So if you weren't up in the wee hours of the morning, you might have missed the contract in the wee hours of the morning. So here, getting back to these folks, they will not teach you about their business. They do not want to be educators. They are risk averse. They don't like new things when it comes to trying new things. They are experts in moving paper. In other words, they don't even care what you do. Whatever you do in your core capabilities, it doesn't matter to them. The question is, how fast can you help me procure this thing? And that's why we have Jamie here, because GSA schedules are one way that they can, one, minimize the competition, and two, be assured that they have a contract vehicle to run things through. They can select that purchasing mechanism. Maybe they will run it for just for just 3 GSA folks, and 2 of them don't even matter because they're not really qualified for it. And they'll shrink the time that's necessary to be able to respond. All kind of ways that the contracting officer can help minimize competitors. Because let me ask you this: do they want 50 responses any more than you want 50 competitors? Heck no. They got to read all that stuff. So the answer is they will help develop the contracting documents, the purchasing mechanism. They may even administer the contract post-award depending on the size. They absolutely want the fastest way to procure every single time because that's easy for them. And easy is good, and the biggest thing is make them feel important. So 2 key buying motives for the contracting officer: 1, make it easy, and make them feel important. This is not hard to do if you're thinking of them and not just going in and saying, what can you do for me? Simple. Reach out, build a relationship, make them feel good, help them do their job. Make it easy for them. Not difficult. So there's the 3 primary people, and here's what those federal buyers need. They need political cover, so the way that you go about your business, your technical cover, pricing cover, and you want to make it easy for them. So here's the deal with political cover. This comes with your approach. How are you getting into that marketplace? Are you calling above that person? Are you trying to come in through the SBA and the OSDBUs? If your approach is coming up from the OSDBUs and the SBA, I'm telling you, you're missing your political cover. Because the only political cover that's going to give you is if somebody up top says, you better be doing business with the OSDBUs, Office of Small Disadvantaged Business Utilization, in case you didn't know what that meant. So if you're talking about those folks are so low on the food chain, and not that they're not important, not that they can't help you, but they can't say yes. So political cover comes from above. Make sure your approach is including an approach from above. The next thing is your technical cover. This is your core capabilities. This is what you do best. This is how we can help you. These are the places where we can help you with your initiatives. And that goes in the political cover with your approach and also with what you're doing. So you give them your capabilities, and you're making sure that they know that you are fully capable of handling this project. The next one is your pricing cover, and this comes from two places: your proposal, your submission, and your GSA schedule if you have one. If you don't have one, it's not required, but it certainly makes life easier. And one of the things that we want to make life easier is to give it to them in a nice big package to say, here you go. Here it is. Here's your sample scope of work. Here's our capabilities. Here's our past performance. We're covering all our bases here, baby, and we're coming in and we're giving you exactly what you need. And here it is in a nice box for you, nice little package wrapped up in a bow. So this is what federal buyers need. Why? Because they want their life to be easier. They don't want to have to train you in what they do. And anything that makes their life hard, they're going to resist. And anything that's risky, they're going to resist. So you have to give it to them in a way that's palatable for their buying motives. Critical, critical, critical. Their buying motives are not necessarily your selling motives. They don't care how good of an engineer you are. They don't care how great your IT services are. They care about, hey, can you give me this cover? There's plenty of people that are working in the federal government that don't know a hill of beans about what they're doing, and they make a lot of mistakes, and yet they have the political cover and the technical cover and the pricing cover to be able to stay and have the ability to stay. So that's what federal buyers need. And so let's talk about your approach real quick. People buy from people they like. It is a bottom line piece here. And the biggest thing for you is to find the people who need to like you and get them to like you. It's just that simple. So as we're working through this process, this is your overall objective. Whoever these people are, you need to get them to like you. So who are these people? Let's take a look at your marketplace. Let's see what your market looks like. Now, in order for you to get smart about your market, what we recommend is doing an overview, just taking an analysis of where you are, what you do, and looking at the market through that lens. So we look at it through your competitors as well. We do a competitive overview. We look at your agency. We look at purchasing patterns by NAICS, by PSC, or FSC, if you're used to that term, when they're doing it, where they're doing it, all the components around that to say, where can I find weaknesses in my competition so that I can infiltrate this market? We look for the competitors per contract. How many are actually bidding on these? And how, because most of the time, you think about it, if you go to Fed Biz Ops, right, I mean, there's dozens of people that are bidding on it. The question is, how can you find the ones where it's not that competitive? And it'll blow your mind when we look at some of these. The key agency contacts, again, the who. Competitive advantage in the landscape, and recommended action steps. These are the things that will get you smart about your market, but most importantly, the key agency contacts responsible for buying what you sell. And then you can get into a place where you can plan for this in 2013. Build out key performance indicators to say, how many touches does it take? How many calls do I need to make? How many emails do I need to send? These are all the things, the grunt work that has to happen in your initial interaction as you're filling your pipeline at the top so you can funnel these things down through. And then you're making those initial calls, you're scheduling your meetings, you're doing conference calls, you're looking at opportunities. There's other ways to do that, by the way. If you're going back into your initial meetings, drawing people in and making sure that you're touching them on a regular basis. It doesn't just take one touch. You're going to have to do this consistently with the right people at the right time, repetitively, all the time, in order for them to remember you. Just because you call them one day and say, hey, I'm here, And then 6 months go by and come back and say, hey, I'm here. They don't even remember. They don't remember 21 days. 21 days is how long a human being remembers an insignificant event. And no offense to you, if you're just picking up the phone and talking to them, that's an insignificant event. They do that all day, every day. So you need to be different. You need to make sure that they know that you're there for them. So that's where you're going to get into opportunities, being able to influence the scope, get to the pre-proposal phase so that you're feeding your information in there and getting to proposals and wins. One of the ways that we do this is with a capability statement to send it out. Here's a sample that we do. And it should be a one-page slit. Go out, your contact info, all on the left-hand side. If you take a look, the left-hand side has all the critical information for the contracting officer. The right-hand side has all the critical information for the folks that are running the project, for your COTARs, your technical representatives, and your PMs. And it's done so that you can just see it in one snap. Everything that they need is all on one page, and it should be customizable to your target and include your core competencies that can be switched around. You may be presenting something like cloud computing or desktop virtualization or custom integration. Those are your three primary targets, but if they're looking at RFID solutions, pop that up in the top three bullets and make sure that's in your email when you're going to them and the first thing that you talk about with them. So these are the ways that you can crack into that code and reach the right people the right way. In that first initial interaction, if you're doing that with your capabilities, then you're going to follow up with phone calls and emails and say, hey, what do you have? And then you're going to have meetings with them, and you're going to create referrals that go back and pop you back up into your initial campaigns and continue to work to generate opportunities through that process. Specifically down into the meeting stages, getting in front of people, that still happens this way, either on the phone or like this. We're doing a meeting right now. You're learning about me, and I'm hopefully going to learn a little about you so that if there's a way we can help you get in the marketplace, we're using this forum. You can use this forum. You can use GoToMeeting, GoToWebinar, whatever it happens to be, and attract people in there. But meetings, face-to-face, getting to know somebody is really the critical thing in this space. It doesn't change in the market. We have what we call the limerick process, where we're leveraging our relationships, influencing the process, monitoring for opportunities. We're creating quality responses, and we're improving those responses and getting to the place where we're capturing wins. This is your world in the federal space, and this is where your resources need to be dedicated. So people buy from people they like. Find the people who need to like you and get them to like you so that you can get in front of the RFP. Critical, critical. If you're waiting for a Fed Biz Ops, stop waiting for Fed Biz Ops. You've got to get ahead of it. You're never going to do it there, and that's how you win business. You got to get ahead, get yourself injected in the process beforehand. Any questions that we have so far? I'm going to take a quick moment to look at the questions here. Hang on one sec. Let's see what we got here. Okay, Jody says, where do we find these people? Absolutely, great question. I'll get into that in just a moment. John says, how long does it take to get into the federal space? I'll talk about that in just a minute too. But generally speaking, John, it's going to take, if you're new to the federal marketplace, it's 18 to 36 months to get federal traction, and you can't follow your entrepreneurial mindset to say it's only going to take 90 days. If you're going to do that, I'd say don't. Even 6 months is too short a time to be able to judge, and that's one of the things we'll talk about as well. Let's see. Will this be recorded or available? Yes, this will be recorded and available. We'll send out the recap of this as well. You'll have a link to that, so you'll have that as well. So any other questions, or let me see if there's any hands raised real quick for anybody. Let me check to see if Mary's back yet. Mary, are you there? No, she must be muted or something like that. All right, we'll move on. And one of the questions is, how can you find these people? So I appreciate that, Jody, very much. The way that we go about this is how we're going to talk about it from here on out. We look at the total market, and this happens to be IT security. So it's $9.4 billion is the total marketplace. We look at the number of contracts, because whoever had the money last year is going to have the money this year, is going to have the money next year. Because budget is what gives you power in Washington, D.C. So we look at the average size contract as well, and we say, all right, just give me an idea of what my market looks like and how this market works. So if we say that it's a $9 billion market, we're looking at dissecting that market. 1%, 90 million, 900 million actually. 1/10 is 9 million. 1/20 is 4.5 million. And is this realistic for you? The question, so can you compete with these guys like CSC, SAIC, Lockheed Martin? Most likely you can't. These folks are professionals, the toppest people, if there's a term I can use, the folks that are absolutely at the top of their game in the federal space. Probably can't compete for $250 million worth of space with CSC. However, let's talk about some of these other folks. 523 contracts for $35 million, give or take, right? That's my kind of people. Let's take a look at some of these other folks. 174 contracts for $5.9 million. Love this, because look at the size of the largest contract is 166,000. Love that. That's a great sweet spot, especially to start in to grow. Here's another one, 150 contracts for $2.3 million. Love these because these are the ones that are flying under the radar. SAIC, CSC doesn't even want to touch them. These are the ones that would be considered crumbs to them, and they just don't have time for them. Yet, look at these businesses building 2.3 million, almost $6 million worth of revenue in a given year. My kind of approach to the marketplace. Very, very smart. Let's talk about the agencies. A lot of folks know of Centers for Medicare and Medicaid. That's a pretty big organization nowadays. A lot of activity in the space for security. Has to be very secure environment. They spend a lot of money in that. I know several of the folks over there. And so this is one of the major agencies. But let's talk about some of the minor agencies. What about the Food and Nutrition Services, the Maritime Administration, Millennium Challenge Corporation? Did you even know that there was a Millennium Challenge Corporation before? We just talked about it. Office of Thrift Supervision, another raging one. But again, here's hundreds of thousands, sometimes millions, sometimes tens of millions of dollars being spent on what you do. That's what's important. Let the market drive you. Don't just dive into where everybody else is. That's where the competition is. Stay away from the competition. Minimize your competition. Get ahead by looking at the sweet spot for you. In this market, there's over 24 agencies. There's 24 agencies with over 100 million, 70 agencies over 10 million. This rivals any Fortune 500 company, right? 118 agencies over $1 million. So what about your competition? Let's talk about the number of competitors that are involved in these particular procurements. Guess what? Less than 5, 82% of the time, for $7.75 billion. Less than 5 competitors. How does this happen? It's all supposed to be open, and I should be able to see all this stuff. It should be out there for me. It's not. You've got to know where to look. And the next thing, and to talk about the number of contracts, 84% of the contracts, 36,500 contracts were issued with less than 5 competitors. I will compete with less than 5 competitors all day long. You start getting into 20, 25, 30, 40, I don't want anything to do with that, because even if you win, you lose. There's no way to win a contract with that many competitors. It just doesn't work very well. So I can't say there's no way. There's always the odd one out. Let's talk about really the most important thing is here. Here we have $4.5 million, $1.7 million purchased by Don Wheatley and Matt Butcher. Is that something that's important to you? It's absolutely critical to you. You now know that Don Wheatley wrote 21 contracts for $4.5 million in this space. Don't you think he might be on your top prospect list? I think he should be. Same thing with everybody else that's on this list, and being able to go after these folks. And these are the golden people. Look at Michelle down there. She's got $17.8 million, 21 contracts. The largest one was $6 million. That probably went to a larger company or somebody that's been in the space for quite some time. But what about the rest of them? What about the ones that are underneath of that? This is gold. This is what we live for. This is what I live for, to go after these people every single day and say, hey, let me tell you about DCC. Let me tell you about Ampray. Let me tell you about Janus Associates. Let me tell you about Link Services. Let me tell you about wireless buybacks. Let me tell you about these folks, because these are the folks that can help you minimize your work. We can help you with your purchases in the federal space. So here we go. Name, number of contracts, total spend, the phone, the emails, the right contracts for you, the right size contract, competing on the right level in your sweet spot. So, you like that? How about this? What about your competitors? You could do it your own way. You could do it the same way that you're doing, or you can steal their wheels. What if we could look at who is buying from your competitors right now and say, all right, your primary competitor, Brenda Musgrove, bought 8 times in the past year for $387,000. Do you think you might want to know Brenda and Sarah and Linda and Bruce and John and Roger and Toya? You think so? I think so. And, oh, by the way, here's their phone numbers, here's their email addresses, and probably their bosses too, and being able to help you navigate that process. That's the biggest thing that you can possibly do. Be reaching out directly to them. And do not tell me that you can't reach them. Do not tell me that they're not going to take a meeting, because that's not true. There are some people that won't, but I'm telling you, the mass majority of the people, especially now, and I'll tell you this, right now, from October through the middle of January is probably the best business development months that you can have for building relationships. Terrible for sales. Great for building relationships. This is the time to enhance your strategy and get out in front of these people, so that when the dollars start to roll in again after they've finished passing continuing resolutions upon other things and budgets and all that stuff, and gearing up for next September. Very, very important. So you're probably thinking, this is something I can build a strategy around. Maybe this can help me get in the game faster, and this can work for you. It absolutely can work for you. And this, one of the things that we do, and this is one of the shameless plugs that we'll go into, this intelligence will help provide you with 80% of your federal strategy. It'll save you months of work. It'll mitigate your risk and exposure, and it'll provide you with a jump start on your 2013 federal sales. And it absolutely will work for your company. So in this, we have a webinar special where it's an intelligence package, 80% of your federal strategy. Again, once we know who it is that's involved in this, we can go about the how. And this is critical information for your company. So we'll give you 80% of your federal strategy, breakdown of your agency spending. This is beyond what you can just sift for yourself. Biggest thing for you is your competitors' contacts, both globally and specific competitors' contacts that you tell us that you want us to research, because that's our job, is to get you smart about this market. We'll give you recommended action steps so that you know what you're supposed to do next. And this week, it's $3,000, save $1,500 off of your $4,500, and it gives you the jump start that you need to be able to get into the space. So this is step one. Get smart about your market. Yes, we can get you smart about the market. Next step is the plan. Part of your strategy for 2013 is you need to review what the market is saying to you. Don't just go and assume that everything is great, and don't go and apply some arbitrary number to those things. You can't do that. Look at what your competitors are doing. Say, I think we can compete with this competitor, and we can take 15% of their business, or 10 or 5, and we can go after this particular market. We'll help you with identifying your extremely high value targets as well as strategic targets, reviewing your competition, helping develop the approach, review your available contract vehicles. If you don't have available contract vehicles, we're going to send you to Jamie, get you a GSA schedule. They can do it. They have a couple of things. Jamie, talk about real quick your approach for these. It's not what is it that you do where it's really compressed time that helps with the submission process? What's that called?
It's called the Rapid Completion Workshop, and it's an accelerated way to get your GSA schedule, the proposal portion of it completed. We have a traditional pathway that we use as well, but in our Rapid Completion Workshop, we time compress the build of your GSA proposal that becomes your GSA contract into a 3-day workshop where we sit down and face-to-face we go through an overview of what it is, how we're doing it, and then we sit down and take you through that process firsthand in a 3-day compressed workshop. And actually we're targeting doing one again in the first part of November, where we're actually going to be doing it in Dayton, Ohio, and it'll be 3 days build, and then on the 4th day we're going to do a fun day. We're going to shuttle everybody over to the Air Force Museum, which if you've never been there, people travel from all over the world to come to that right in Dayton, Ohio, and walk through and look at some aviation history. But the important thing out of that whole process is the build cycle, because it reduces the build cycle to get it into the hands of the procurement officer quicker, and the quicker it's in their hands, the quicker you have your GSA contract, and use that as a tool to make purchasing easier from the federal buyers.
Excellent. And it absolutely helps, because if you've never done this before, I'm telling you, you'd rather get 2 or 3 root canals, because it's not easy to do it.
Without anesthetic, I think.
With anesthetic. It is a painful process, and it's a lengthy process, and that's one of the reasons why I love handing things off to Jamie's group, is because they help compress that time, very much so. So I appreciate that, Jamie. The other thing about your strategy sessions is to look at your high value prime contractors and teaming partners. We'll show you how to find them too as part of this. So set realistic expectations. This is critical for you. Set the market budget and identify your resources. And we're going to talk about resources in just a minute. And being able to set your metrics for measuring your success before the dollars start running in, so you don't lose hope. Stay hopeful. Again, we'll skip that real quick. Step 1, get smart. Step 2, plan. Step 3 is to dedicate those resources. Here is where almost everybody fails, and this is unbelievable. After we just talked about the 3 root canals without anesthesia, 79%, almost 80% will lose their GSA schedule. Right now, there are people being cut from their GSA schedule because they did not meet their requirements. Let me talk about requirements. 48% didn't get any. No dollars. 31% didn't reach the $25,000 minimum. I don't care what you do for a business. If you just spent however long it takes to get a GSA, even if it's 3 months or 4 months, which is short time, or a year, maybe 2 years if you did it yourself, you just spent all that time and you didn't reach $25,000 on your contract? Come on, man. That's a categorical failure, and this is why people absolutely fail. This also includes 8As, by the way. I just had a conversation, a very frank conversation with a friend of mine who's an 8A, who says, I'm not waiting 18, 24 months to get in the market. I just spent 3 years to get my 8A. I said, buddy, what do you think's going to happen? Just because you have an 8A, it's going to fall from the sky? No. You've got to get out there and market it. You've got to spend the time. You're going to still spend another 18 months developing your marketplace. I know it's hard to believe, but believe me, it's there. 5,000 and 9,000 8As don't get any money. And then most graduate and disappear. If they didn't get any money, they didn't make any money, and they still disappear. So the average cost of this, well, it depends. The sweeping cost is $20,000 to $175,000 is how much it costs to try and fail. So if you're going to do this and you're going to spend that kind of money, let's work on what's necessary. Why does this happen? Because I call them toe dippers. They walk in and say, man, I'm going to try this. And let me tell you, the biggest problem with these resources is, are you going to tell your ace, this is the guy that's bringing in all the money, maybe millions, tens of millions of dollars, say, hey, my ace performer, I need you to go concentrate on this federal market for 12 to 18 months, and then we'll start to see some results. Are you kidding me? Is your ace going to sign up for that? No, because his bread and butter is coming through the sales that he's generating. So is yours. So, nope, I'm not going to give it to my ace. You're going to give it to your steady Eddie that says, hey, well, these are the folks that, you know, they're not the super performers, but they're steady. You know, they're there every day. They're constantly working their contacts, and they're constantly generating business, not the super performance, but man, we're not going to lose those either. So what are you going to do? You're going to go to your under par rep, and you're going to say, hey, I got something for you. This person has been underperforming for your company. You're going to give them something that's going to take them an inordinate amount of time. They have no experience in there, but, oh, it makes sense to me because they're available. They're not overburdened with work because, or maybe they're new. Let's give them something like this to cut their teeth on. I'm telling you, this is a recipe for disaster every single time, and they spend $25,000 to $75,000, sometimes more, on this particular piece. This is one of the toe dippers things, and they do it for 3 to 12 months, and in 12 months they say, man, John, I mean, I like you and all, but you really haven't produced in this federal space, and I gave you just about every bit that I could. You went to these different small business liaison groups, and you did speed dating, you did all this stuff, and you're not shaking anything out of the trees. So we're done with you, John. ROI, 0. Total failure. Happens all the time. I see it happening. I'm watching it happening right now with several other people. Total loss. Your resources must be qualified. They have to know what to do. They need to know how to do it, and they need to know how to show you progress before the dollars come in. Very critical for you to understand what progress looks like. Go back to the chart that we had with the pipeline. Very much that way. Then some of you folks are going to say, we're going to hire somebody new. I got this guy. Dude, his resume is rocking, and we're absolutely going to, he is just so totally great. And he's a big player, so we're going to have to spend $100,000 to $175,000 base for this guy. And we're going to work at it. We're going to see what he can do in 6 to 12 months. Same ROI. Because even if he's good, he might not be able to bring stuff in. And the chances are, you might be riding the wrong horse, but you're not going to know. You're not going to know until the end. Another total loss. So the key differentiators for successful federal contractors is spending smart and spending enough. Don't short cycle your federal budget. Don't go get a GSA schedule and say, man, I'm here. I've arrived. Don't just go get your 8A and say, man, I'm here. I've arrived. It doesn't work. You've got to get out there. You've got to market this stuff. There is an enormous federal market. They are buying from you. They're buying products that you could sell. They could be buying from you. So here's the deal. You cannot minimize risk by applying arbitrary spending limits. You can only minimize your loss. If you say, okay, I'm going to spend $25,000 on this effort, and that's it, and I'm only going to do it for 9 months, that's an arbitrary time. You can't determine that from outside the industry. You cannot make that decision. The only thing you can do is say, I'm only going to lose $25,000. I'm only going to lose $50,000. What I would say, take that 50 grand, go to Vegas, put it on red, and let it ride. You're going to have more fun. You can get free drinks. You probably get a couple free meals, maybe even a suite. You start spending that kind of money, and you'll have more fun. I'm telling you, it's the work that's associated with this is what we're all about and helping you get there. I actually had that quote. That's one of mine. Sometimes I quote other people, but today, self-glorification. So is this market right for you? You can do this if you understand your market, and you can't do it without intelligence, and we can help you provide that intelligence. You have to dedicate resources, and this is people and time, or time. If it's your time, then you can certainly do it. And you need to accept the terms of deliverability, which is 18 to 36 months. If you haven't been in the market yet, make sure you have that kind of a window. If you hit something sooner, great. Jump up and down, pop the champagne, have a good time. But I'm telling you, 18 to 36 months is what you need to be looking at for your federal strategy. If you're expanding in your market, think about what it took to get into the market that you're in right now. You didn't get that overnight. You're not going to be able to expand overnight. So keep your expectations realistic. So if you want results in less than a year, here, I do have a recipe for this, and you have more than $1 million to invest, I can tell you, you can go get the business, and here it is. You can go acquire a successful contractor that has a contract you want. Talk to a mergers and acquisitions folks. If you don't know anybody, ask me. I'll get you in touch with a couple of lawyers and M&A people. Look for the right people. Question is, where are you going to find those? Guess what? If you do the intelligence, you understand your market, you're going to have the types of folks that you can go out and swallow up. You're going to know You may want to go after that KT Consulting. You may want to go after JDG, because those are the folks that can help you right away, almost right away. You have to go through the merger and acquisition process, but you'll get yourself in the door faster by doing that and acquiring those. So again, webinar special, $3,000 this week. I know we're running right about at time, so I'm going to go ahead and answer some questions about this. Let's see. Can you give us examples of the types of contacts that you have? Absolutely. Hang on one second. I'm going to go there right now, and I'll show you the types of contacts and how they work. I'll send this out to everybody as well. But these are the contacts that we're talking about. This is actually the back end of the report. The report that you get will look like this. It'll be dedicated for you, obviously. It won't be these guys for stealth, but it'll start with the overall. This has to do with tactical supply, so it'll go back to tactical supply, whatever it is that you supply. But the real money, start looking at the contacts. Here we have, this has been sanitized, so the names and the emails don't work, but we have the names, we have the emails, and we go through these and we say, okay, tell me how much they spent on what I do. That's the most important thing to me, is to be able to prioritize these contacts. As you can see, every one of these spent over $10 million. Oh, let's see, there's 30 of them that spent over $10 million on tactical gear. So this is a niche market, not too different than what you're doing. Even if you have commoditized components, the same process works. So let's talk about the number of contracts, and we'll see the types of people that pop at the top of that list. 151 contracts for $389 million. Not bad. 132 for $415 million. Now we get to these, $29 million for zero. What does that mean? There's a $0 contracts that could be executed some other time. So don't get confused. But here's 24 contracts for $2.4 million, 23 for 8, 20 for 26, 20 for 217. These people could be buying from you. There's no reason they can't buy from you, well, except for the fact they don't know who you are. You've got to get out and reach them. So we have, let me see how many contacts we have. Let's go here. I think I don't know what happened to this. This is not supposed to be sorting this way. But we'll look at this and see how many contacts. There's 759 contacts that bought tactical supply. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? There's that. You've got to pay attention with those kind of numbers. Got to pay attention with those kind of. Hang on a second. I have no idea what's happening with this bad boy. Largest to small. Oh well. Well, some of it. Anyway, then we're going to talk about the competition. Here it goes back to the people that are actually buying. We dove down into 4 competitors here. 4 competitors. Let's talk about Southern Police contacts. Are these the people that you need to know? 5 contracts for $305,000, 3 for $106, bite size. How about some of these other folks that are direct competitors? Again, 2 contracts for $291,000. One of those was a $0 contract that was executed probably later on. 3 contracts for $23,000, bite size, flying under the radar. Let's talk about another competitor. U.S. Tactical, 3 contracts. Where's my number? Hold on a second. Let's go to these guys. Here's another one. John, $682,000, 4 contracts. All these folks, these are the folks that you need to know every single time that you're going about your market penetration. Here are the agencies that are buying. You might not want to go after the Army because that's where everybody goes. Well, how about we go after Secret Service or the Bureau of Reclamation or Forest Service? We still got $1 million worth of sales. IRS, TSA. Some of these make perfect sense. Some of them don't make any sense at all. FBI, of course, that makes sense. HUD, $1.8 million. Again, tactical gear. Why? Because got to be guarding something. So again, well, how does this work? Here are the NAICS codes. PSCs. The offer reports. Guess what? 78% of the contracts, less than 5 competitors. This is critical information. Where are they doing it? What are the states that are involved? Virginia, no surprise there. Maryland, no surprise there. Again, where are they happening and when are they happening? And this will be no shock to anybody because this is September. Spike in September. It starts to spike in August, comes back down, about 1,000 contracts. You're gearing up for next September. That's your job. Get in front of these people, so next September you have an incredible year. So that's less than 12 months. So again, looking at your buying cycle, looking at what you're doing, absolutely. Get in front of these people. We can help you get in front of those people. And these are the right people, folks. These are the people that are responsible for buying what you sell. See if we can get that back. There we go. There you have it. We're over by a little bit. Jamie, you have anything else that you want to put in? You have your Dayton your thing in Dayton. When is that, and how do they reach you?
Well, the best way to reach me, you can certainly go to our website, www.gsaproposal.com, and there's a contact us section right there. My phone number, 937-602-8930. And, as the message, and you really have echoed very strongly, we've got a lot of really good success stories for clients we've gotten on schedule, but all of those clients with good success stories have done one thing, which is clear-cut from the rest of the pack, and that is they work their schedule when they have it. They get out there and they use resources like what you bring to the table, and they actively pursue getting government business. If you just say, hey, I've got my schedule and I'm on GSA Advantage and let's wait for the phone to ring, you're not going to win business that way. You have to actively go out there and work it, and you need to be prepared. You have to have the right resources dedicated towards it. You have to have a contracting vehicle is a real good idea, even if it's not a requirement. So like having your GSA schedule in the particular sale you're working on, you're always going to look better having that because you're proving good past performance, stable company, quality pricing, products. All of the elements about your company are being conclusively proved by having that GSA schedule and getting your GSA schedules tax deductible. You get your schedule this year, next year you write it right off on your taxes. It costs you virtually nothing to have that credential that we've seen come up time and again, actually feedback directly from our own customers as they're out there selling to various markets. They've been in colleges, universities, and corporate environments where they're getting asked, do you have your GSA schedule? And not because they buy off schedule, but because that they know that if you have your GSA schedule, you're safe to do business with. And when you have that, it makes it easy for the buyer to do business with you.
Exactly. And can't stress that more. I mean, sometimes they won't even buy off your GSA schedule, but they won't let you in the door unless you have one.
Right.
Happens all
That's
the time.
exactly correct.
And,
right.
and we see it a lot where you're in the door and you're talking with the person. They say, do you have a GSA schedule? Yes, we do. Then we'll reference your GSA schedule prices. We won't run it through GSA, so it doesn't count towards your $25,000. But what it does do is it gives you the business. You're in it for the business. You still want to make the $25,000 so you can keep it, obviously. But for crying out loud, if part of their litmus test is that if you don't have a GSA schedule, I'm not doing business with you because you're going to make my life hard, then give them what they're asking for. Give them the GSA schedule and then market it however you want. If you have an 8A, that's even better. Give them the choice. We can run this through 8A or we can run it through GSA. Love that choice. Or we have different schedules. We might have MOBIS. We might have a Schedule 70. Which one you like? And those are the things that Jamie's group, I can't recommend them higher because I send everything that I have over to them when we're talking GSA stuff because I know that they're going to work through it. They're going to work through with my clients, with me. Sometimes I'm doing it with them. But the objective, again, is to remove all the barriers and obstacles to the marketplace so that you can start to garner this federal business. So I'm going to go ahead and